I would argue that denial of the broad consensus of international authority on the subject is slow. If you're just getting to it now, you can characterize that differently. But my point is that, and the point that I was making in this tweet that I read that I wasn't able to finish, was that if Charlie Kirk, it's hard for me to believe that if he had similarly inveighed against Jewish people the way that he does against Black people, that Ben Burgess would have felt as comfortable and chummy with him and would have been as comfortable giving him plaudits for his interpersonal skills in the context of this debate. And I think I had the same exchange with Glenn Greenwald. I didn't. I'm sorry. It's hard when I'm looking at someone who has open contempt for me as a race. He says it, open contempt for me and my intellect because I am a Black woman.
Everyone loves people who are nice to them. That's like the whole point of love your enemy. That's the whole point of love your enemy, Briahna.
Right.
Everyone loves someone who's nice to them. Everybody on the right loves people who are nice to them too, right? That's what the left is about, Briahna. You got into politics very, very late in your life. You got into politics late in your life, Briahna. I'm someone who was raised around civil rights leaders who used to attend their speeches as a child. This is what the left is about, Briahna. I'm teaching you something. Why don't you ever learn from anyone else? You're always lecturing everyone else. Learn from someone else.
Said you were singularly
learn from someone else.
I have ever had.
Did this motherfucker just mansplain to Briahna Joy Gray on her own show saying, I'm trying to teach you something, learn from me? Who he does not know the actual history of what it feels like to be a Black American and says, well, I was raised around civil rights leaders. Briahna Joy Gray and Zaid Jilani had a debate. And the debate was in regards to Charlie Kirk. As we all know, Charlie Kirk was murdered in Orem, Utah last week on September 10th of 2025. And his death has really rocked people who watch independent media, especially all over social media. People have been either doing one of three things. Either people have been mourning his passing, people have been celebrating his passing, or then you have a third option of people who they didn't celebrate, but they said he got what was coming to him and you reap what you sowed, or they were just silent. I was part of the third crowd where I said you reap what you sow, right? I made a tweet just within 20, 30 minutes after I found out he passed. There was a debate between Briahna Joy Gray and Zaid Jilani, and the way the argument went reflects upon me that we as Black people are expected to carry the emotional baggage even for people who do not respect our existence. And I mean this in the most eloquent way possible, if I can say this. If you think that we should carry the emotional weight of someone's demise who did not respect our existence, you have us all the way fucked up. Let's get into this because I am really willing to get into this. So we're going to start here. If you guys have not, and by the way, look, I'm just gonna let this be known here because y'all know me. I am upfront and I am honest. First of all, this clip is about 30 minutes. I can't catch the entire thing because Briahna has it in her Patreon, and so I'm a broke brother. So I ain't got no money to give her for it. Okay. And it's no shade to Briahna. You know, she's a worker, she owns her own means of production, and she has to make her money. Plus, you know, a majority of her streams are for free on YouTube anyway. So I'm not faulting her for that. I'm just saying that I wasn't able to catch the entire thing because I'm broke. I'm literally on fixed income. Subscribe to my Patreon. But unfortunately, I can't catch it all. But from what I have, what she's posted, I'm going to be gleaning from that here. And from what I've gleaned so far, Zed. All right, let's go.
Populist rhetoric and the ugly inegalitarian substance of his politics. Now, I also debated Charlie Kirk, I think immediately after Ben Burgess did, because I remember watching Ben Burgess's debate in preparation for my own. The idea that he didn't slide into personal attacks might have been the experience for Ben Burgess. As I gotta say, a Black woman who Charlie Kirk openly maligned as not having the intellectual capacity to participate in public intellectual life, I very much felt that in our interaction during that debate. And he made several arguments, some of which we'll clip here in the context of this episode, that simultaneously I was only able to have achieved what I achieved academically, personally, politically, socially, whatever, because of affirmative action. But also the existence of my achievements is proof that racism doesn't exist. And you're going to love what I'm about to say, Zed, because it brings up the school that you accuse me of bringing up frequently. But I brought it up in the context of Charlie Kirk bringing it up. You guys share this assuming obsession with my having gone to Harvard. But it wasn't about me. He said, well, you went to Harvard, so there must not be any racism. And I asked him, do you think that there was racism during the Reconstruction period? And he says, of course. And I say, are you familiar with the fact that W.E. Du Bois went to Harvard during Reconstruction? He was not. So my impression of Charlie Kirk was that he was racist. He engaged with me in a racist fashion, in a patronizing fashion. I saw Clint Greenwald, who's a friend and who I, adore, making the case that people who knew him personally liked him. That may or may not be the case. I knew him personally and did not come away with the sense that he was a quote unquote good person, whatever that means. I don't know that that's relevant. Doesn't mean someone deserves to be killed. But I also don't see the purpose of rehabilitating someone's reputation simply because they have been the victim of gun violence. It's again, possible just to not say anything at all.
So let me stop right there. Because for the people who say, well, he was a good man, he was a Christian, he was a father. Okay. How many fathers were slave owners? Was King Leopold, who murdered 10 million Congolese people, was he a father? Was he a Christian? How many people who were religious did horrible things? Does his belief and worship of Jesus negate the harm that he has done or the vitriol he spewed and falsehoods he spread in regards to people who are marginalized? Does that negate it? Does that absolve him of those things, of those transgressions? Do the sins, are those absolved because of his belief? If I walk up to you and smack you in your face right now, do you have the right to retribution? If I quickly say, I believe in Jesus, I believe in Jesus. Right? If I insult your mother, does that absolve me? Can you not harbor ill feelings towards me because I believe in Jesus? Even though I call your mother every single name except for a child of God? Zed? Huh? Wait. You know, are we going to do that? Let's continue on. I had to ask those questions. Please, by the way, take the poll, guys. Take the poll.
Especially in Jacobin magazine.
Well, I think that I think it goes back to the very first thing we said on this topic, right? Which is that the asymmetry almost seems to be built in, institutional, and historic, right? Like this is generally how the left thinks about the world, right? The left has a humanistic worldview, and it doesn't really like to demonize people. It doesn't really like to hate people. Like that's kind of the whole point. And the fact that it's asymmetric is actually because the left just had different beliefs about the world.
But you don't have to demonize. But even you're sort of doing it, Zed. Like this is not me telling to demonize or hate anybody. Well, it's just to say you. But
that's what you do. Like that's literally how you. That's how you love your enemies, though. Like that's what they're doing is what.
No, laundering.
That's what the left has always believed. That is what the left has always believed. Not what the Twitter people from 2014 believed.
Whitewashing somebody's record. No,
that article had some very harsh. That article had some very harsh criticism of her.
This one didn't do it as Recline did. The Jacobin didn't whitewash his record as Recline.
Yeah, they did criticize. They did criticize him for sure.
Right.
I know that article. It was a fine article. I mean, it wasn't. You can nitpick, but
I can nitpick. So, but even that is frustrating to me because my deepest frustration with all of this is how easy it is. I'm sorry, how easy it has been for white liberals and white leftists to poo-poo the fundamental racism at the core of Charlie Kirk's ideology. And maybe that's like maybe that's not that big a deal to someone who hasn't personally experienced it. But when I saw,
she was about to say, maybe that's not a big deal to you. She self-censored right there. And I get it because she didn't want to seem accusatory, but I'm going to say it, Zed, because it's not that big of a deal to you because you're not black. It's not that big of a deal to you. And this also goes for some people who are on the left that may be white. I'm going to say it. Because some people on the left have said some stuff that may be anti-black or queer-phobic, and people go, oh, we should just focus on class, not anything else. And then next thing you know, they got a pass. The hell? So just because they were divisive towards other groups who may be of the working class, they get a pass. Or we shouldn't criticize them or critique them. We shouldn't push them to self-correct. I'm sorry, but if especially if you're a Marxist, and if you also honor the issues when it comes to being able to critique yourself, then you might want to allow that critique to happen. But here's the thing to me. It's like when Zed said that the left is somewhat asymmetrical in the way they come after people from a Black person's perspective. When somebody does not respect your existence, you can't expect us to feel sorry for that person when they suffer a demise as a result of their own ideology too. Especially when they don't respect our existence. Especially when they view Black women as inferior, which is kind of ironic to me, yet he's supposed to be friends with Candace Owens. And I'm like, so you have this view of Black women being inferior, and yet you befriend Candace Owens? It's wild to me. And Candace Owens, you're gonna be friends with a guy that thinks that you're inferior? Self-hate much? Anyway, let's continue on.
The Ezra Klein article, my immediate reaction, I'm trying to find the tweet that I responded to it.
I don't think it's just white. I mean, that's kind of a lazy racialist critique. I mean, I think Martin Luther King Jr.'s kids put out the same, very similar responses to what you just read.
No, they didn't.
It's very similar.
Nope. They did not invalidate. They did not try to whitewash who Charlie Kirk was. This is my response to the Charlie Kirk article when it first came out. I tweeted, you can openly argue that Black people are inferior, that they should be murdered for pre-crime, a la Daniel Penny fiasco. The polite liberals will applaud you in the Times. But if you say free Palestine, they'll accuse you of Jew hatred and fire you from your job. The disrespect liberals show for Black Americans is disgusting and disqualifying. I cannot imagine. I tweeted this also, and Jeff Stein said he had a similar thought when he was reviewing this article that morning. If Charlie Kirk.
No, I'm reading the statement from the estate of Martin Luther King Jr. III, Andrea Waters King. This is straight from their statement.
Yeah, they said political violence is bad, and no child should see their father killed. Yeah.
Whether we agree or disagree with the words a man speaks, we must never lose sight of his humanity, nor forget the sacred dignity that lives within each and every person. I mean, that's not a bad statement.
No,
I don't disagree with it.
That is not the same thing as saying he was substantive. Like Ezra Klein's article substantively applauds him for doing politics the right way.
Are you angry?
The article is called "Practicing Politics the Right Way."
But are you angry at the King family? Are you angry at the King family for not denouncing his racism or whatever you think they should be doing right now?
I think you're also falling into this binary trap. The argument is that, that you have to die. No, wait, let me finish.
You kind of started it with the white, with the race baiting. So
you never let me even finish the
race baiting. Race? What? Here's the thing. I'm going to give you the low-down, one-eye buck-tooth truth about what this is all about. This isn't a debate about decorum. And when it comes to people who do not respect our existence, especially in this country, and it's not a difference of political opinion. It's an opinion of should we exist or should we not. That is not a political opinion. That's not some political opinion. That is supremacy. Therefore, decorum goes out the fucking window when you got somebody arguing that shit against us. Absolutely not. And then Ezra Klein is praising Charlie Kirk for doing it the right way. These are the same people who argue that you should protest using a police permit. A protest with a permit is a parade. You should do things the right way within the system. And the thing is, the system don't give a damn about us because who owns it? This is why white liberals are so dangerous. At least white conservatives who have the anti-black views will tell you who you are or tell you what they don't like about you to your face. White liberals will disrespect you and dislike you and do microaggressions and all of the other things while smiling in your face. What did the OJ say? Smile in your face all the time. They want to take your place. Backstabbers. Backstabbers. This is exactly what they are. And you got white liberals crying over Charlie Kirk's death. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you crying over a man that was white supremacist? Misogynist? You're like, well, he is a human being. Yeah. And did he deserve to die? No, because, and I'm not coming in from a different angle. He didn't deserve to die because what good is that going to do for us in changing the material conditions of people in this system? Absolutely nothing. It's not going to change anything for us. So therefore, should he have died? No. But at the same time, what was he saying? What was he doing? What was he pushing? And people don't, and you cannot expect people who are black to you can't expect us to feel some type of sorrow over someone that expresses the vitriol that he expressed. You cannot expect that. You cannot expect us to hold the emotional weight for someone that really doesn't give a damn about us. And the problem is that they have expected us to do that all the time. It's the whole master, we sick? We sick? No, we're done with that. It's over. Let it go.
Point about that is not race baiting.
It's funny that you're like,
Zed, it's not race baiting to point out
and humanist.
Wait, how am I selectively racist? No, you're accusing me.
Why did you want?
No, you're just like Charlie Kirk, actually, Zed. You sound just like him. That's hilarious. So, wait a minute? Do you think that Charlie Kirk was racist?
Talk about race.
Why do you think that Charlie Kirk is racist?
I think he did say some racist stuff. I think you just said some racist stuff with the white liberal thing.
Wait. Whoa. What did she say that was racist? Does this dude hear himself right now? In the history of this country, pointing out that you have a group of people that cling to a supremacist institution while grimacing in front of us, but wanting to keep the institution of superiority in place for themselves. And they are part of a particular group. And they're expressing prejudice with power. And they can affect our very lives when it comes to education, environment, employment, housing, and healthcare. You mean to tell me that us expressing frustration, expressing the facts in regards to what they have done, expressing disdain for what they have done, collectively, and have used and victimized us of it. You mean to tell me that us having that frustration is racist? Pointing out how white liberals are just as bad as the racist white conservatives, if not more dangerous. That to you is racist? And then, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, Charlie Kirk brings up, our inferiority all the time. You're saying, oh, he said some racist things, but you don't think he's racist? I beg to differ. The racial illiteracy with Zaid Jilani is through the roof.
Everyone's a little bit racist.
Wait a minute.
Than you and me.
Wait, but, I'm sorry. Is Ezra Klein a white liberal?
Mm-hmm.
But why is his skin color?
Is Ezra Klein a white liberal?
I mean, it's pretty racist to focus on the fact that
is Ezra Klein a white liberal?
Are you going to focus on the fact that he's Jewish?
Hang on. It's a descriptor. There are black liberals too. I think they're dangerous too. But how much power do black liberals really have? They don't have nowhere near as much as white liberals do. Especially socioeconomically. Therefore, somebody like Ezra Klein is a white liberal. And by the way, when Zaid Jilani goes, well, he's Jewish. Guess what? Just like Italians and Irish weren't white back in the day because white Anglo-Saxon Protestants didn't declare them white, they became white when it was convenient for them in order to raise the power structure to keep a division. The same thing happened with Jewish people. Jewish people are now white. They're white. Unless you're black and you are of the Jewish faith, no. Ethnically, Jewish, the people, the Ashkenazi Jews, they're white. They're European. So therefore, Ezra Klein, and by the way, when I look at Ezra Klein, I see a white dude. You know, Marianne Williamson was Jewish until she said it. That was just a regular old white woman. There are people who are Jewish that I didn't even know. Jordan Sheridan was Jewish until he said it, a few years ago. You know what I mean? Did you know that Boots Riley is Jewish? He's black. Did you know he's Jewish? But you wouldn't know unless they told you. But here's the thing, that's the crazy part. But they're still white. Not Boots Riley, but the other people I mentioned. And if he's white, and if he's a liberal, he's a white liberal. It's not that hard. Like, why is he twisting himself into pretzels over this? It doesn't make any sense to me.
And people,
I'm getting to that, by the way. I'm getting to that.
People, Briahna, unlike you secular pagans, are raised to love our enemies, okay? I know you don't understand.
Wait, he said, unlike you secular pagans? Oh, it's starting to come out now. Oh, love your enemies. love your enemies, like what we're doing to people in Gaza? Is that loving our enemies? Who even some people who are liberal are on board with what's going on? Bernie Sanders doesn't even want to call it genocide. And yes, Bernie Sanders is white. And please do not go to religious routes, Zed. Please don't do it. Because how many times have white people in this country have used the Christian religion as a means to absolve them of the terrible wrongs that they've done? How many of them have done that? We literally have Bibles that were made specifically for slaves that had, for instance, the books of Exodus taken out because they didn't want the slaves to learn that they can demand their own salvation and fight for their own salvation and liberation. They call it the Slave Bible. So we're not going to go that route, said. We're not going to do that. Because if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Charlie Kirk was and what many people who profess to be Christians in this nation are, a lot of them are fake-ass Christians who use the Bible to hide behind so that they can continue their white supremacist BS in order to believe that they are somehow better than the rest of us, when in fact they are not. Because if we're all created as God's children, then guess what? Then they need to start treating us as equal as them, but they don't want to. And therefore, when something happens to them, when we go, you want to browbeat us, and because we shrugged our shoulders. When they wouldn't even give a rusty nickel for us. Hell, they don't even give a rusty nickel for you. Very Dinesh D'Souza energy coming out from him right now.
Understand that. You don't understand what 80% of Americans understand.
Zed. Let's talk about how much Ezra Klein,
Americans. You are so out of touch with everyday Americans.
How Ezra Klein loves his enemies. Because the
entire world is always a political civil war to you. And of course you don't understand why you don't convince people in politics. Because you're so sectarian. It's like I'm talking to fucking Hezbollah right now, right? A guy was killed and people are just trying to sympathize with his family.
Ezra Klein has been very notably, Ezra Klein has been very notably slow to his condemnation of the genocide in Gaza.
That's not true. A week after the war started, he was opposing it. A week after the war started, on his podcast, he was opposing it. It is absolutely true. I listen to his podcast almost every week. That very first month of the war, he was denouncing the war. He was denouncing the conduct.
Because my recollection was
he did not use the word genocide, but you're right. He didn't use the word genocide until very recently. You're right about that.
Okay, there was a big wave of people who were finally willing to concede what was obvious, and a word that many of us were using immediately in the weeks after October, in the days after October 7th, that it was a genocide. So I would argue that denial of the broad consensus of international authority on the subject is slow. If you're just getting to it now, you can characterize that differently. But my point is that, and the point that I was making in this tweet that I read that I wasn't able to finish, was that if Charlie Kirk, it's hard for me to believe that if he had similarly inveighed against Jewish people the way that he does against Black people, that Ben Burgess would have felt as comfortable and chummy with him and would have been as comfortable giving him plaudits for his interpersonal skills in the context of this debate. And I think I had the same exchange with Glenn Greenwald. I didn't. I'm sorry. It's hard when I'm looking at someone who has open contempt for me as a race. He says it, open contempt for me and my intellect because I am a Black woman.
Everyone loves people who are nice to them. That's like the whole point of love your enemy. That's the whole point of love your enemy, Briahna.
Right.
Everyone loves someone who's nice to them. Everybody on the right loves people who are nice to them too, right? Like, that's what the left is about, Briahna. You got into politics very, very late in your life. You got into politics late in your life, Briahna. I'm someone who was raised around civil rights leaders who used to attend their speeches as a child. This is what the left is about, Briahna. I'm teaching you something. Why don't you ever learn from anyone else? You're always lecturing everyone else. Learn from someone else.
Said you were singularly
learn from someone else.
I have ever had.
Did this motherfucker just mansplain to Briahna Joy Gray on her own show saying, I'm trying to teach you something, learn from me? Who he does not know the actual history of what it feels like to be a Black American and says, well, I was raised around civil rights leaders. Be so fucking for real right now. Do you know what it's like to be Black in this country? You hear from it as a secondhand from hearing anecdotal accounts of people, but do you know what it's like to be Black in this country? Specifically, a Black American in this country, a descendant of people who were enslaved. Do you know? How have you experienced it? What can you teach Briahna Joy Gray about being Black? Our existence is resistance. And you mean to tell me you're going to, hold on, wait a minute. How in the fuck are you going to disrespect a Black woman on her own damn show, bro? Who in the hell do you think you are? I wish a motherfucker would. Let me tell you something. No. Briahna Joy Gray is being a lot more patient with you than I would. She's being way more patient. She has a patience of a saint. Because I would have raised my voice at you. The inner hood in me would have came out. My goodness. The inner hood, the Jersey in me would have came out. The Camden, New Jersey would have came out of me. Because who in the hell do you think you are disrespecting a Black woman on her show and saying, I'm here to teach you something else? I wish this thing was full of liquor. It's water, but I wish it was something else. Y'all believe this? Y'all believe this? Oh my God. Oh. We're almost done.
Had on this podcast. Do you know that?
Because most people just don't like talking to you.
Hold on, wait.
But everyone loves people who are nice to them. That's like the whole point of love your enemy. That's the whole point of love your enemy, Briahna.
Right.
Everyone loves someone who's nice to them. Everybody on the right loves people who are nice to them too, right? Like, that's what the left is about, Briahna. You got into politics very, very late in your life. You got into politics late in your life, Briahna. I'm someone who was raised around civil rights leaders who used to attend their speeches as a child.
Right there. The way she's looking away, she's thinking, do I rhetorically end this motherfucker, or do I do I treat him with kid gloves? She's contemplating whether she should set it off rhetorically or not. Black people, you know that face. You know. When a woman's fed up, there's nothing you can do about it. Oh boy. I want you to watch her tone as soon as she starts talking again. Just listen. Just listen. Listen to her tone, how it shifts.
This is what the left is about, Briahna. I'm teaching you something. Why don't you ever learn from anyone else? You're always lecturing everyone else. Learn from someone else.
Said you were singularly
learn from someone else.
I have ever had on this podcast. Do you know that?
Because most people just don't like talking to you. Wait a minute, you're arrogant. I'm trying to teach you something.
That's actually not true. People love talking to me, and in fact,
when do you change your mind about anything, Briahna? When do you change your mind about anything? I'm trying to tell you that it's worth thinking about the other side of things.
I don't want to diagnose. Let me not diagnose you. But it's honestly a kind of like.
That's not what you wanted to say. That's not what you wanted to say. Basically, I'm going to be Briahna Joy Gray's anger translator. I'm not going to cook you right now because I very well could. There's a similarity between two women I know. And those two women are Briahna Joy Gray and Savvy Savs. They are, how can I put it? They are remarkably brilliant. And if they could end you rhetorically, they could do it easily. Don't cross that line because it doesn't end well for you. She probably knows some shit. She probably does. She probably knows some things. But she's holding back. I can tell she's holding back. She is holding back. I'm telling you. Y'all, do y'all believe? I can see it in her eyes. She's holding back. Let's just.
I don't want to diagnose. Let me not diagnose you. But it's honestly a kind of like almost a scientific curiosity how you manage to be so sort of histrionic and triggered at the most unexpected points in our conversation.
Well, let me ask you this. I remember when you told me Ralph Northam was going to resign. Every black person in Virginia wants him to resign. Guess what happened? He didn't resign, and black people supported him. I literally don't remember. I literally don't remember this conversation. Because your politics is about anger and vengeance and like denouncing people, and like that's not what the left is about. That's not you're way out of step with the left.
I can't say any more clearly that I'm not asking people to denounce Charlie Kirk. This is but the fact that you're falling into this kind of binary reflects a sort of intellectual weakness and vulnerability and inability to understand the analysis.
Let me ask you this.
So if you can't understand the analysis, then we don't have to keep pressing this point. I think the audience is very clear about what my argument is.
I did not go to Harvard.
And I don't especially need you to grasp the subject. So I'm happy to move on to the article that you did.
It's very true.
I also didn't have rich parents. Said actually,
yes,
my mother was
all over the friggin' world. You lived all over the world.
My
poor person cannot do that. A poor person cannot live all over the world.
My mom was. I shouldn't. No one should have to reveal the vulnerabilities of their family and their own family's insecurity to score points on a podcast. Hey, YouTube. Thanks for.
I'm going to go here because this doctor says it way better than I ever could. Because I want people to make this abundantly clear in regards to Charlie Kirk. You cannot expect Black people to mourn someone or even respond to someone's demise. And this isn't just a left thing. This is also a Black thing. This is also an LGBTQ thing. Like the people who are marginalized that he decried, you cannot expect us to have these feelings of sorrow over his passing. You cannot expect us to hold that emotional weight when he did not hold that emotional weight for us. And this is also the consequences of how he lived his life. How he lived is how he chooses to be remembered. So that's a making of his own doing. Let's let Dr. Raquel Martin explain. Take it away, Doc.
So now if I don't publicly grieve someone who used their platform to spread hate, I'm the monster. You're allowed to feel nothing for someone who felt nothing for you. But people are saying I lack empathy and compassion. Empathy means you can understand what someone may be feeling. Compassion is what you do with that understanding. But that doesn't mean you're required to care. It doesn't mean that you're required to grieve them. It doesn't mean that you have to make space for their pain. So why do people keep saying that I should feel guilty, like I'm supposed to at least say something? Because this is another kind of emotional labor people expect from historically excluded and marginalized individuals.
Boom. It is expected of us to sit there and mourn Charlie Kirk. It is expected of us. This man died. You guys need to mourn. No, we don't. Now, whether somebody celebrates it or not, that's them. You know, I don't celebrate it, but I don't mourn it either. You're literally, I'm a Black gay man in the United States who was also disabled. Look, all I gotta do is stay Black and die. You cannot expect me to hold weight for someone who wouldn't even hold a feather for me. On top of all that, his rhetoric as well as beliefs were the same rhetoric and beliefs of people who held us in chains. Thinking that we're inferior? Yeah. The slaveholders also felt the same way. Mm-hmm. So do you expect me to hold any space, any emotional space for that? I only hold emotional space for people who mean something to me. Or the innocence of people who I may not know. But you can't expect me to hold emotional space for someone who otherwise wouldn't care if I lived or died. And how many people have celebrated the deaths of Black folks? And by the way, they did celebrate. History proves that time after time. How many people were, especially Black men, were lynched, hanged, burned, castrated. Then they took the pieces of their body and put it on the mantle in order to have it as a souvenir. If that's not celebrating our death, I don't know what is. They used our hair, used to stuff it for pillows. They used to take our skin and make it into leather. And these are the same people who held a lot of the same beliefs that Charlie Kirk did. So you can't expect us to. But let's continue on with Dr. Martin.
Not just surviving injustice, but grieving the people who delivered it. Mourning those who never saw your full humanity. That's not empathy. It is exploitation dressed up as morality. It's wild. Like, if I say nothing, I'm a sociopath. If I say how I really feel, I'm the villain. Grieving takes time, energy, and presence. The expectation that you should pause your life, your healing, even your scrolling to mourn someone who actively harmed your community is an attempt to manipulate you. I get that, but people are acting like not mourning is the same as wishing someone harm. Those are two very different things. Choosing not to use your emotional bandwidth to honor someone who consistently denied your worth isn't the same as celebrating their death. There's a difference between neutrality and cruelty, and no one gets to demand your tenderness. Now people are saying I'm heartless because he was a man of God with a family. Like, I'm supposed to grieve just because he had people who loved him. Being loved by your family doesn't erase the harm caused to others, and someone's religion is not a shield from accountability.
Ooh. There it is. There it is. Doesn't shield you from accountability. So why are they trying to manipulate us into grieving somebody? It sounds like that was something that Zaid Jilani was trying to do. That felt like manipulation. And he's mad and frustrated that Briahna Joy Gray wouldn't take the bait.
Can be a father, a Christian, and a bigot who has committed heinous acts. Does not mourning him mean I'm supporting the violence? No, that's a false equivalency and a manipulator's favorite tool. Choosing silence or honesty is not the same as celebrating harm. You're allowed to opt out of emotional labor, whether that's for a saint, someone who made a career out of causing pain, or anyone in between. So I don't owe anyone grief. No, you don't. And it's important to name what this is. It's not just grief guilt. It's emotional over functioning, something that's been socialized into historically excluded and marginalized communities, especially Black people. This pressure to perform grace, to feel for those who never felt for us. It sounds like another way to attempt to control people. Grief is sacred. Compassion is a gift, not an obligation. And your energy is precious. You're allowed to keep it for people who never made you prove you deserve to exist. So now if I don't publicly grieve someone who used their platform to spread hate, I'm the monster. You're allowed to feel nothing for someone who felt nothing for you. But people are saying I lack empathy and compassion. Empathy means you can.
So that's what I wanted to share, because I think it's important that we put things in perspective, right? And then, of course, right, people who expressed that they wish harm upon people, if that is awful to you, then be consistent across the board. On Sunday, I talked about Brian Kilmeade from Fox News, who expressed that he thinks that homeless people should be euthanized. He expressed they should be involuntarily euthanized. Should Brian Kilmeade be fired? If you hold the same belief of people feeling the same way about Charlie Kirk, then you should feel the same way about Brian Kilmeade. If you think that people holding such beliefs should be fired from their jobs, okay, fine. Then you also agree with the people with ABC and Disney for firing Roseanne Barr after she called Valerie Jarrett a monkey years ago. You agree with ABC and Disney. You agree with them. I want to share this as well, because liberals will call people like Charlie Kirk fascists while they're alive, and yet when they die, they're crying tears. Here's Dean Withers, and this gentleman explains about white liberals, which Zaid Jilani didn't want to talk about. But here is the point.
Dean Withers crying due to Charlie Kirk's untimely death is an example of why allyship is performative. That there's a stark difference between activists and resistance and content creators. It's a stark reminder how privilege shapes your level of empathy for people other than your circle of influence. It's funny how I'm watching allies on my timeline humanize Charlie while dehumanizing Black and brown people that have been impacted by Charlie's rhetoric. You can actually explain this with psychology using attachment theory, because we bond to individuals who we're in close proximity to. Attachment theory shows you that it doesn't matter if a person does something right or wrong. We prefer proximity over morality and virtue due to the fact that it brings safety. This is why we cling on to abusers or cling on to really bad parents. It's the same ideology. Dean has more in common with Charlie than he does with me. And that's the lived experience of being a person of color. He doesn't get triggered the way that I get triggered when people are being kidnapped in broad daylight by ICE, being thrown into alligator Alcatraz, people wiping away Black history. He doesn't get triggered by those things. He doesn't carry with him the intergenerational trauma that was committed by his ancestors. He doesn't feel those things. And if he hasn't experienced any of these things, how can I expect him to have empathy for me in regards to my response to Charlie Kirk's death, as opposed to, what he has expressed. And, he made it very clear that, there's a fork in the road. You should be able to have empathy and be able to, show grief for someone that has been actively harming communities, not just with belief systems, but with rhetoric that counseled the president to make decisions that have made a lot of lives a living hell. And to me, he just built his platform on saying the right things at the right time and went viral because, a lot of people see empathy in him and value his words over someone like me. Because again, it's by proximity as the reason why people bond to certain individuals versus others. And all this video reveals to me is that when push comes to shove, that the dominant group will always choose their own because they find more safety.
And so we get into the background of it, right? And so you cannot expect us to grieve somebody who does not feel the same way about us or who does not think that we should have equal existence or any existence at all. I don't think that we should be expecting this type of emotional labor from people. And I'm tired of people thinking that we should. Because we have been expected of that's been expected of us ever since our, existence on this land. And if we're going to talk about expecting emotional labor and compassion, then that has to be extended back to us, right? But it's not. Like, for instance, this just came out not too long ago, I think within the last few hours, out of the Washington Post. It says, National Park to remove photo of enslaved man's scars. The Trump administration is ordering the removal of information on slavery at multiple national parks in an effort to scrub them of corrosive ideology. So this photo, which is very famous, is of a Black American that was enslaved under chattel slavery and of his scars. And an escaped slave, Peter Gordon, in Louisiana in 1863. It says the Trump administration has ordered removal of signs and exhibits related to slavery at multiple national parks, according to 4 people familiar with the matter, including historic photograph of a formerly enslaved man showing his scars on his back. The individuals who spoke on a condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak with the media said the removals were in line with President Donald Trump's March executive order directing the Interior Department to eliminate information that reflects a corrosive ideology that disparages historic Americans. His National Park Service officials are broadly interpreting that directive to apply to information on racism, sexism, slavery, gay rights, or persecution of indigenous people. So, eliminate information that reflects a corrosive ideology that disparages historic Americans. Let me say this. First of all, this is something that Charlie Kirk would agree with. Second of all, the disparaging of historic Americans, the truth isn't his disparaging. It's telling the truth. Like, for instance, when I say something like Thomas Jefferson was a molester and a trafficker, human trafficker, I'm not wrong. Any person that enslaved or that supported the slavery of Black Americans, Africans in this country, they were human traffickers. George Washington was a human trafficker. Thomas Jefferson was a human trafficker. And I've been going over it when reading Margaret Kimberly's book, Presidential Black America and the Presidents. Many of them were human traffickers. A lot of white people after Reconstruction during Jim Crow are terrorists. Some of y'all, and I'm not talking about to everybody, but some white people are the descendants of terrorists. Some are the descendants of rapists. We gotta look, history is horrible. By the way, it's not like we don't share that same DNA, because some of those rapists are also we're descendants of too. But we got to be honest about the history that has happened in this country. And so if we're going to talk about compassion and holding emotional weight for the passing of somebody like Charlie Kirk, then why don't we do the same thing to the most marginalized? Why don't we do the same thing to Fred Hampton, whose his headstone is constantly shot at with bullets by racists? His headstone. This happens all over the country, and yet they don't get kicked out. They don't have the government wanting to retaliate against them for those views. And yet, if they do it against somebody who's marginalized, oh, well, it's fair game. How many of those people did the same thing to George Floyd after he was murdered by Derek Chauvin? Where was that same energy? This is why it's so important. Because here's the thing, there's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on. And it's important that we point it out and try to avoid it ourselves. I applaud Briahna Joy Gray's patience, because I wouldn't have been as patient. I think Zaid Jilani has a lot to learn, because hiding behind, I was raised up around civil rights leaders. That's not a shield, bro. That's not a shield at all. That's just a variation of some of my friends are black. That's what that is. Having proximity to blackness does not absolve you from anti-blackness and white supremacy. And yes, is Zaid Jilani white? No, but he can have internalized white supremacy. Black people can have internalized white supremacy. And many of them do. Proximity to blackness does not absolve you. Having black children, having a black partner or spouse, it does not absolve you. You need to do the work. This is called decolonizing your mind. And once you do that, then you will start to understand how we really feel. But until then, you're going to look like a fool on the internet. And we're just going to shake our heads at you. Thank you so much for watching. And I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. Forehead kisses. Have